I'm Tad Flaky,
I'm Lilibet Flaky.
and this is Pointless Global News. On today's show, a man gets the ride of his life in a porta-potty.
Then I'll tell you how to stay out of the ER on Thanksgiving.
Next, I'll tell you about a flight from hell, and it had nothing to do with the current slowdown at airports here in the U.S. That story coming up later, but first, a homeless Saginaw man is suing a contracting company, alleging its employees moved a porta-potty with him inside and soiled him with excrement in the process. It was intentional. They were doing it just to mess with him, said Victor J. Mastromarco Jr., one of the plaintiff's attorneys. Kevin J. Colby, age 59, filed his suit against Midland-based Fisher Contracting in Saginaw County Circuit Court on November 4th. He's seeking damages of at least $25,000. The suit alleges Colby was riding his bicycle on the afternoon of August 13th when he needed to use a restroom. He stopped at a construction site overseen by Fisher Contracting and parked his bicycle and its attached trailer containing his possessions near a porta-potty. The porta-potty bore no sign of indicating that it was private. As Colby entered the porta-potty, Fisher employees began yelling at him. He then heard an engine start, followed by the sensation of the porta-potty being lifted off the ground with him in it. The Fisher employees used a forklift to partially raise the porta-potty and haphazardly rocked it back and forth. The toilet then began to flip backward, but not completely. It didn't topple over as it struck a tree, or so says the lawsuit. Colby opened the door and was greeted by the forklift operator telling him to get the fuck out of our porta-potty. The motion caused Colby to be covered in poop and chemicals, which he was not able to immediately wash off due to his homeless status. Fisher's employees mocked Colby when he emerged from the porta-potty. Colby then called 911 to file a complaint, but no criminal charges were filed against the Fisher employees. Mastromarco and the fellow attorney, Kevin J. Kelly, assert that Fisher employees' actions were intentional and malicious. The forklift could not fully lift the porta-potty to relocate it. They were taking him for a ride and weren't really moving it to a new location, Mastromarco said. He went on to say they just lifted it off the ground to screw with the guy. They were going to teach him a lesson. Don't use our porta-potty, buddy. The suit contains 3 counts: battery, negligence, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It goes on to say the defendant's conduct was so outrageous in character and so extreme in degree as to go beyond all possible bounds of decency and to be regarded as atrocious and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. I would tend to agree with that. Fisher Contracting has yet to file a response to Colby's lawsuit. You know, in my opinion, these construction workers were probably inspired by an episode of the TV show Jackass many years ago, where they gave Johnny Knoxville the same type of poop cocktail when they flipped over a porta-potty upside down with Johnny Knoxville inside of it.
Well, the porta-potty is probably one of the best inventions, giving people the opportunity to use the bathroom when they don't have a building with facilities. But in a case like this, it's the worst, and I would agree they just did that maliciously.
Yeah, it was a tool for mischief.
I hope he wins his lawsuit.
I hope so, too.
ER Dr. Reed Caldwell has suggestions to stay out of the ER on Thanksgiving, and he should know. He's worked on Thanksgiving for 12 years. He says beware of foul play. Ha. Thanksgiving is supposed to be a day of celebration, but it's actually one of the most dangerous holidays on the calendar. It's all too easy to go from breaking bread to breaking bones. No one knows this better than me. I've worked on the ER on Thanksgiving for 12 years. Here are the 5 most common Thanksgiving injuries and illnesses and simple ways to avoid a trip to the emergency department. We see a lot of lacerations, particularly on the hands and fingers. People cut themselves all the time on Thanksgiving because they're using new tools like shredders, mandolins, and especially sharp knives. Plus, cooks are often distracted because they're busy talking with family and friends. Maybe they've had a few glasses of alcohol. So I recommend staying focused on the task at hand, carefully reading the instructions of the new cooking devices and practicing with them before the big day. We also see quite a few patients with burns on Thanksgiving. Burns are often found on the face, hands, forearms, and feet due to dropped food and sauces. The infamous turkey fryer is a common cause of Thanksgiving burns. They get really, really hot and can overflow if they're not used correctly. Not only can turkey fryers injure you, they can spark fires that damage your property. It's really important to review the instructions carefully, follow them precisely, and wear appropriate protective gear. I recommend thorough, tough cooking mitts that cover your hands, wrists, and forearms. The next category is trauma to bones, joints, muscles, tendons, and ligaments. Forget football on TV. The real action is the games in the backyard or the horseplay in the living room. Unfortunately, family fun can lead to major pain. There are a few ways to prevent holiday sprains, fractures, and concussions. First, you should stretch before the family football game. Don't warm up with a bottle of wine. Second, remember who your opponents are. Be mindful that your relatives have different physical capabilities and tolerances for stress, so be gentle with them during the holiday get-togethers. Head trauma from falls is also common around the holidays. It's important to consider your environment for family members who are at greater risk of falls. What will the weather be like on Thanksgiving? If it's going to be icy, do your relatives need help getting inside? Is the walkway well lit? Once inside, is there a rug they can trip over, slippery floors, toys on the ground? For kids, ensure that sharp objects and potential poisons are locked away and out of reach, and that there is no access to steep staircases. Another frequent cause of ER visits on Thanksgiving is gastrointestinal illnesses before the meal. Ask family members and guests if they have any food allergies or sensitivities. And while overeating and indulging in rich meals can be problematic for anyone, people with heart disease or diabetes face the greatest risk of stomach issues because too much salt or sugar can exacerbate their conditions. Also, be sure to properly handle and store ingredients to avoid food poisoning. Wash your hands frequently and refrain from sharing utensils with family members. Refrigerate leftovers and toss them after too long. Unfortunately, choking can also happen during holiday meals. You need to thoroughly chew your food to prevent choking, slow down as you eat, and don't speak while chewing. And keep in mind that colds, flus, and other respiratory illnesses surge in colder months. Try to avoid contact with ill family members and stay home if you're sick. A flu shot lessens the severity of the illnesses if you do get infected. Remember, it's important to have first aid supplies and basic medications on hand for any family holiday gathering. Band-aids, gauze, antibiotic ointment, and indigestion medicine should be easily accessible. Preparation is key to preventing a Thanksgiving trip to the ER. It's better to spend time with your family and friends focusing on Thanksgiving and cheer than seeing me on your holiday. Well, I think I have encountered almost every single one of these traumatic instances.
I figured you probably had.
I have. I bought a mandolin, and I don't know anyone that has one that hasn't suffered from some serious mandolier cuts. If women come to work with 2 or 3 fingers taped up, I always look at them and go, "Mandolin accident?" And the answer is usually yes. As far as burns go, I burn myself every time I stick my hand in the oven, in the toaster oven. So
the scars to prove
and
it.
I have the scars to prove it. So I've had that. Tad here has tried to convince me to get a turkey fryer, and I've told him, now, don't we have enough hazards? That's just an accident.
It's basically a bomb, I know.
It is. That's just an accident waiting to happen. Don't want any parts of that. And as far as food poisoning, poor Tad suffered a really bad incident of food poisoning after heating up some leftover sweet potato pie.
I wanted it warm.
You wanted it warm, but
man, did I pay a price
but I
for that.
warned you that you should not eat this sweet potato pie, especially because it was more than a couple of days old. And who do I find on the floor in the bathroom going, "Help me"?
It's me.
Except Tad.
And the point they mentioned about horseplay, like when you're playing in the backyard,
Yes.
maybe a game of football. You know, I was one of the first anchors to come out against horseplay. Did you know that?
All right.
Yeah.
And talk about
Quite proud of it.
steep stairs. Lilibet's sister has a house with the steepest stairs I've ever
God,
seen.
I hate them.
And everybody wants to go downstairs. So, yes, Thanksgiving is fraught with the potential for accidents. And I think poor Tad and I have suffered 5 out of the 6 that we mentioned here.
It's like it's always fun for the whole family.
Yeah, until somebody gets food poisoning or cuts half their finger off.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Finally, Delta Airlines had a passenger who made a stink about a recent flight after being stuck sitting next to an older traveler who had an accident and left literal poop smears on the seat. The flyers shared their smelly story on Reddit, detailing how they assumed that the direct flight from Florida to Los Angeles would be smooth sailing before cursing themselves for being naivete, or naive, if you will. Titled The 5.5 Hour Flight Next to a Human Biohazard, the passenger recounted how an older gentleman on his own boarded the plane with the assistance of airline workers and then sat down next to them. The moment he sat down, I knew I was SOL, the Redditor wrote ominously. It turns out that he had some serious mobility issues, which meant that I was effectively window seat prisoned for 5.5 hours. They noted colorfully how flight attendants would check on their seatmate and assess the situation. It turned out, though, that every breath was a gamble. The traveler noted how upon landing, their seatmate immediately stood up against instructions, naturally, and that's when the true horror was revealed. The Redditor recalled there were literal poop smears on the seat and on him. I had spent an entire cross-country flight marinating in that odor. They continued. As I stumbled off the plane in shock, one of the flight attendants said, "I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Why didn't you ask for a mask?" I told her, "Lady, I needed an exorcism." Well, Delta apologized to the passenger, with the flight attendant offering to give them 5,000 airline miles, which she said was not nearly enough compensation. Honestly, I think I deserve therapy and several showers.
There was no way he was going to win, because if this person had been in the window seat and needed to get up and go to the
That
bathroom,
would be even worse.
that would be even worse. And,
10 times worse.
just to add insult to injury, 5.5 hours, if you really need to go to the bathroom, then he should have just peed in his seat. Then they would have had a pee seat and a poop seat, and the plane would have been complete. The ride would have been complete there.
I'm glad I wasn't there to experience
Me too.
it. And that's a wrap for another Pointless Global News. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tad Flakey.
I'm Lilibet Flakey.
Stay pointless, my friend.